Hi there, and thank you for tuning in to the April 7th version of the Shore Report, where we provide you with a weekly update on the Ontario real estate market. My name is Jendrzejczak from the Shoreview real estate team, powered by New Street, and this week we're going to be talking about housing updates that were just released by the Ontario government, along with our March market reports that we released for regions throughout southwestern Ontario. In this video, we're going to be discussing the recent announcement by the Ontario government where they intend to invest $6.5 million to address the ongoing backlog at the Landlord and Tenant Board. The investment aims to hire more staff and improve service standards to reduce active applications and decision timeframes with an additional 40 adjudicators they intend to hire. The backlog at the Landlord and Tenant Board has been a significant issue for landlords, with wait times averaging 7 to 8 months and sometimes up to 10, 12 months or more just to get a hearing. However, some experts argue that staffing is not the primary issue. They doubt that hiring new adjudicators will fix the backlog, as the LTB processes have dramatically slowed with the pivot to a remote service model. Returning to more in-person hearings heard by region would go a long way to resolving issues at the LTB. Despite these challenges, many landlords support the investment, advocating for more investment leading to a swift and transparent process that is fair to tenants, landlords, and all parties involved. The announcement also included additional proposed protection for renters, such as new guidelines for renovictions and personal use evictions. If a landlord evicts a tenant to renovate a unit, they would now be required to justify the eviction by providing a report from a qualified person stating that the unit must be vacant for the renovations to take place. Tenants would then be given a 60-day grace period to move back in once the renovations are complete. Landlords who evict the tenant so that they or immediate family members can use the unit will have to move into the unit by a specific deadline, occupying the unit within a reasonable amount of time. The Ontario government's investment of $6.5 million to address the backlog at the Landlord and Tenant Board is a step in the right direction to provide better results for Ontario citizens. While the proposed changes to renovictions and personal use evictions may not be sufficient to curb bad faith evictions overall, it's a move in the right direction to provide additional protection for renters. Another update that came out this week from the province is the implementation of a new legislation called the Helping Homebuyers Protecting Tenants Act, which will allow municipalities throughout Ontario to expand their borders at any time in order to build more homes. The government says that key changes in this new policy could include tools to support growth near transit stations and allowing more homes to be built in rural areas, but no details have been provided about what type of tools that would be. Under the new policy, municipalities would have more flexibility to decide when and where to expand their settlement area boundaries, which officials say will provide more land for housing. It's unclear how this expansion would work, and officials have said that this will be a tool cities can use to avoid comprehensive review processes in order to build more homes. The province did this themselves back in November 22 when it modified Hamilton's urban official plan and its rural official plan to expand the city's boundaries by 2,200 hectares to achieve housing goals and keep up with population growth. Law Charity Eco-Justice is challenging the decision in court, saying the expansions into farmland and wall spaces is unlawful. The new bill builds on previous housing legislation by requiring municipalities to not just build, but to ensure a range and mix of housing options. This includes low and mid-rise apartments or more multi-generational housing. It also allows farmers the ability to have up to 3 new residents on their property to support multi-generational farming families. The 29 cities who were given housing targets by the province last year will also be required to plan for growth in major transit station areas and other strategic growth areas. A report commissioned by the environmental advocates released early last month found the province has enough land to build more than 2 million homes by 2031 without developing the greenbelt or altering city boundaries. The report found that about 1.3 million units could be erected in existing build-up areas inside the greater Golden Horseshoe municipalities. An additional 700,000 units can be built either on designated greenfield areas or rural land. As part of the bill, the government says it will be consulting on a cooling off period for freehold homebuyers. This would require home builders to tell customers about the time frame in which they have to change their minds and cancel purchase agreements on freehold home purchases. The consultation will review how long that cancellation period should last and the disclosure requirements and whether they include a purchaser cancellation charge. The government is also freezing 75 provincial fees that they say will help reduce the cost of building homes. Officials did not specify all of the fees or their costs, saying only that 16 of them will be building code fees and will include exam and registration costs. This bill has been described as the latest steps the government has taken to reach its goal of building 1.5 million homes by 2031. Lastly, let's take a look at the Shoreview powered by New. Okay, so I wanted to go over our monthly market reports because there's a lot of information in here and I want to explain how these reports work. So let's get into it. We're going to start with the Greater Toronto Region. This is the GTA. So what we're looking at here is the average price of a home that was sold in March 2023. This is the average price for the month throughout all of the Greater Toronto area. And then these stats are really powerful. So right now, the average price is up by 1.1% from last month, but we're still down about 15% from last year in March. If we go back another year to March 2021, we're up about 1%. So the differentiator between last month and 2021 is pretty much the same. We're up about 1%. If we go back another year, look at that. We're up 18.6% from March 2022. Now, in terms of sales activity, you can see a big jump there from last month, up 44%, 45%. And if we go back to last year, you can see we're still down about 36% from last year. So if we compare this to an annual basis, we're obviously seeing some of the decreases that we've experienced in the market. But if we compare it to last month, you can see the market's kind of moving in an upward trajectory. Average days on market, 27. We're down about 18% from last month. So again, that's really powerful because that means that it's taking much less time for homes to sell compared to last month. Are we up from last year when the market was crazy? Of course. Months of supply, about 2.3%. And look at that. Average sales price is selling, in most cases, just a little bit over asking. So that was Greater Toronto area. Now Durham. Let's look at the Durham region. We have a more comprehensive set of stats here. So again, the lines that are thin, they compare to last month. The full triangles compare us to last year. So if you look at the average price in all of Durham region, $926,000, it's up about 4.2% from last month. So just from last month, we're seeing a really significant jump in terms of average price point. Are we still down from last year? Yeah, 19.4%. If we look at the different product types, we got detached, semi-detached condos. They're all pretty much down in the 10 to 20%. You can see condos in Durham, for some reason, that's not a stat that you're going to see in other regions, but it seems like the condos have taken a little bit of a dip, the highest dip compared to other products where that's not really common in other regions when you come out west. Sales activity, 864. Again, you can see a big jump from last month and still quite a bit down from last year. So it's really nice to see these stats and look at how we are comparing it to last month and last year. Going to Hamilton, 740,000 median price. Sales activity, 635. Again, quite a big jump from last month in terms of sales activity, 98% average price to listing. So things are pretty much selling for what they're. Let's dive into Niagara here. So you can see the median price is 625,000, just a bit down from last month. Still quite a bit down from last year, but not as much as we were the previous month. Sales activity, 622, up from last month. Things are selling just under asking, 23 days on market, down from last month. So this is telling us that things are selling 8% faster than they were last month in Niagara. Similar stats in Niagara, London, and in Hamilton. If you look at London, similar thing here. So prices just a tad bit down. It seems like February, things really jumped, and now things are still coming down a little bit in these secondary markets. Sales activity up over 50%. So things are really picking up. We're getting more inventory, and I think that's what's stabilizing the price on that end. If we look at the West End, in terms of the West End of Toronto, Toronto West, price is pretty stable in terms of last month. We're still down quite a bit on the annual, and sales activity up 40% from last month in West Toronto, Mississauga. Interestingly, saw a 2.6% jump from last month in terms of price, just over $1 million, and we're down a little bit from last year, but not much. I mean, compared to other secondary markets, sales activity up over 50%. Oakville price point at 1.45 on average, a little bit down from last month. Not bad from last year compared to other regions. Activity up 67% from last month, so we're seeing more activity. Burlington price is pretty stabilized, obviously down from last year. Sales activity up, 2.1 months of supply in Burlington and 1.6 months of supply in Oakville, which is interesting. In Halton, if we go out to Northumberland, Brighton, so these stats, there's not a lot of activity in some of these areas, so these stats might be a little bit skewed, but a little bit of a pickup in activity. Median price $570, Belleville $490 median priced. You can see the activity going up across these areas. Northumberland, Quinte West, 517, 500,000, 17,500. You see the price jump a little bit. Activity again. These areas are not seeing a whole lot of data because of the activity. If we go out to Durham, that's where you'll see a lot more activity going on. So sales are up in terms of activity quite a bit, 74%. Prices are pretty stabilized from last month. Whitby saw a pretty good jump, 4% from last month. Activity up again from last month, 1.3 months of supply. That's interesting in Durham. We've been seeing this quite a bit in Durham, and we've been hearing about it with some of the deals we're working on. But 105% of asking price, 103% of asking price, 102%. Everything seems to be going just a tad bit over asking in Durham. Oshawa, 105%. That's been really common. And sales are up, and then prices are up 6% in Oshawa. So Oshawa was the market that seen the most significant jump from last month in terms of prices. And that's it for the market report from Merch. So I just wanted to explain how this report works. Hopefully you guys found it insightful and you could tap into it every month. Thanks for listening.